Hi, it's Sherry. Welcome to Canterbury Cottage. Today I'm doing a video unlike any I have done before, and I have to thank my husband for the idea. So thank you, honey. First, I'm going to take you on a tour of my home, pointing out some of my all-time favorite DIY projects. Many of them were made in previous videos, and I'll be sure to link those videos in the description box in case you want to check out the full tutorials. After the tour, I'm going to show you the 10 DIY projects that I have chosen to give away. That's right, I'm going to pack them up and mail them to you. So be sure to stick around until the end of the video if you want to know how you can win a DIY project made by me in a previous video. So if that sounds good to you, let's get started. Let's start the tour in the foyer. This enclosed cabinet was dark brown when I purchased it, and the glass was covered with broken mullions that were beyond repair. This plant stand was made with the center pedestal from an old kitchen table and a couple pieces of architectural salvage. And this large mirror was a thrift store find that I just painted and distressed. I created these eucalyptus stems by hot gluing faux leaves to branches from my yard. Moving into the family room, I purchased this vintage secretary at an estate sale, and it is filled with books that I distressed and an old hurricane lamp filled with twinkle lights. On top of my built-in bar is a vintage wicker suitcase that I painted white. On the mirror hangs a butterfly wreath made from thrifted florals and butterflies that I printed and cut out from cardstock. Next to the cabinet hangs the $1 lantern that I repurposed last week, adding a wood round and a cloche. Yes, I'm using the cloche, at least for now. On a nearby ottoman is a tray that I thrifted, painted, and decoupaged with a pretty napkin. This candle sconce was another DIY project made by combining thrifted items. This built-in bookcase contains some DIY art, including a copy of a vintage book page and a copy of a vintage bird print in a round frame. Each shelf also holds an old outdoor lantern with all the electrical wiring removed. Just below the bookshelf is the hummingbird lamp that I made in a recent video. I combined a thrifted lamp and some metal wall art to create this one-of-a-kind lamp. Also on my fireplace is the wood match holder that I upcycled into decor for spring and summer. There is another built-in bookshelf on the opposite side of the fireplace that is filled with vintage books, thrift store finds, and of course, some more DIY bird art. Next to the bookcase, I hung a large piece of metal wall art that I created by clipping the leaves off of a thrifted item and gluing wood rounds in their place. I like to think that it detracts the eye away from our 1960s speaker system. There are several DIY projects in the opposite corner, including an art project, a vase makeover, and converting an old pillar into an electric lamp. On the adjoining wall, I attached two thrifted wall sconces to some vintage ceiling tiles and added some faux succulents instead of candles. Moving into the library, I'm still using a small side table that I made from a mid-century lamp. There are a number of DIY projects on the vintage dresser, including the lamp that I made from a stack of old books. The bird art hanging on the bookshelves are just color copies that I decoupaged over some old framed plates. I love having lots of interesting objects mixed in with my old book collection. I also like to add plants, real and fake, to a variety of unusual vintage items. And I still have the fake book box that I made from a thrifted jewelry box holding the remote controls for the TV. And I still have the suitcase clock combination that I made sitting in a display on top of the bookshelf. I've made a number of these library coaster sets to sell in my booth, but I still have the original set. I just made a few repairs and added card catalog handles to this wall cubby, and I will probably never get rid of it. And my new end table made from an old desk drawer adds to my library theme. The library is adjacent to my kitchen, where I have this old store display cabinet topped with a large outdoor lantern that I gutted and filled with old books. Mixed in with the cookbooks is a fake book that I made from a cereal box and a dust cover to hold appliance manuals. On my kitchen counter, I have this iPad holder made by joining an old cutting board with a knife block. I created some kitchen art by applying vinyl letters to a cutting board and to an old pot lid. On a kitchen shelf, I have a fake scale made from a thrifted alarm clock, topped with tiny fake books that I also DIY'd. To the dismay of many of my viewers, I cut up an old wood ironing board to create this oversized cutting board, and I still don't regret doing it. And I've been really pleased with my mail sorter turned charging station. And the entertainment center that I converted into a china cabinet continues to be one of my favorite large DIY projects. And I tried out the IOD paint inlays for the first time on this little wall cubby cabinet. The DIY projects in my laundry room are left over from my farmhouse stage, like this old door that I got for free and laid across the top of my washer and dryer. I attached it to shelf brackets on each side to keep it from shifting around. I still have a couple word signs that I made and a thrifted ceiling light that I stripped down and painted. I applied vinyl letters to chalkboard wrapping paper to create this sign. I also have an old ladder that I attached to the wall and converted into a multi-purpose storage unit. This was originally a 14-foot tall ladder that I sawed in half in the parking lot of the thrift store to fit in my car. The other half of the ladder is in my library. My back entry is another one of my favorite DIY projects. It was the first time that I used a reciprocating saw when I ripped out a closet all the way back to the studs. I added a thrift store bench, wallpaper, and some shelves to create a quasi-mudroom. The main floor bath contains a thrifted cabinet that I made over into a vintage apothecary cabinet to hold some of my vintage bottles. The wall art consists of a large floral piece made from an IOD transfer and two botanical impressions that I made in a Magnolia Dupes video. Making over one of the upstairs bathrooms was probably the most challenging DIY I've done to date, but also the most rewarding. I installed a new floor, a new vanity, new lights, and painted the tub and tile. I also included a lot of small DIY projects in the makeover, like jars to store supplies, a tub tray made from an old shutter, a valance and cafe curtain made from inexpensive Walmart fabric, repainted shelves from the thrift store, and storage tins and wall hooks made over to fit in with the rest of the bathroom decor. And just last week, I traded out the wall art for these butterfly plaques. As you enter the master bedroom, you see a small window nook to the right that is full of DIY projects. I not only made the window seat out of a former vanity, but I also made the cigar box shelf, the valance, the wicker lampshade, and I made the cushion from a dog bed. I painted the frame on this thrifted piece of art in one of my earlier videos. I made over this lamp and lamp shade, and I made this little planter that seems to kill every plant that I put in it. Thank goodness I put a fake plant in this repurposed hurricane lamp. To hide a strangely small window, I created this bed nook by connecting two bookcases that I already had with a fabric-covered board across the top. This butterfly wall art was created by applying IOD transfers to thin cardboard, cutting them out and adhering them to cotton fabric. And this little vase was created using bead stickers. I updated my lamps by recovering the lampshades with some colorful peacock fabric from Walmart. And this large wall art was created using IOD paint inlays. I painted over this once orangey brown nightstand with some creamy white chalk paint. And I painted the matching dresser with Rust-Oleum's Sensible Sage chalk paint and applied some antiquing wax. But my favorite bedroom DIY, without a doubt, has to be the fake Delft tiles that I created by printing out vintage images and decoupaging them to white ceramic tiles that only cost me 10 cents a piece. And to make this project even easier, I applied the ceramic tiles to my fireplace surround using caulk instead of mortar. I hope you enjoyed that little tour, and I hope you know how very much I appreciate each and every one of you who watch my videos every week and leave me such lovely comments. Now I want to tell you about the contest. If you'd like to receive a home decor item crafted by me, you just have to do two simple things. Number one, be subscribed to my channel. And number two, leave me a comment letting me know which item or items you would most like to win. That's it. Now, let me show you the 10 projects that I have set aside for this contest. I'll be giving away this needlepoint wall art and this butterfly wreath with twinkle lights. You could win this wooden bucket filled with faux florals or this metal hummingbird lamp. I'm also giving away this blue and white wall cubby cabinet and this vintage desk drawer lined with a music roll for a player piano. Or you could win these botanical-themed wood canisters or the work stool/planter from last week's video. I'm also giving away this former clock-turned-ornate shelf and this vintage toy baby buggy filled with faux succulents. I wish I could send every single one of you something, but I'm glad that I can share a few things with you at least. Now don't take too long to decide which item you'd most like to receive, because I'll be announcing the winners next week.
Well, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next week. Bye-bye for now.